So apologies that I did not give the usual Torah class on Sunday morning Torah and coffee. And we'll share a short story because I am traveling. I went to put up mezuzahs by a dear friend. So I will share a story. I heard this story from Rabbi Lichtenstein, a very wonderful scholar. And the reason why I'm saying this story is because I don't want to go too far away from my Wi-Fi connection. I'm saying this story because, this week's Torah portion begins with God's command to Moses to tell Aaron the high priest of what he should share with his children. Talking about the importance of educating your children, the Kohanim in this case, and some of the laws of how the Kohanim, the priests, the Jewish people are divided into three groups. And, there's the Kohanim, there's the Levites, and there is the Israelites. And the Torah over here goes on to tell us some of the important rules and mitzvot that a Kohen, a priest, has in order to maintain his higher standard of holiness and purity, ritual purity, because of his role in doing the service in the temple. So I want to relate a story about sort of education that I heard from Rabbi Lichtenstein. Rabbi Lichtenstein said the following story. There was a fellow, I forgot his name, because I'm not good in remembering names, but now you probably know that, who survived the war. He survived World War II, and he did very well for himself. He became financially very successful, and was also a tremendous philanthropist, very charitable. And one day, and as such, one of his focuses in terms of his charity was education. And he was the main patron, the main sponsor of the local Jewish school. And that was very dear to him, very special to him, especially as a Holocaust survivor. His grandchild went to that very same school that he was the main supporter. And one day he gets notified by the principal, I guess, that his grandchild is really very wild, difficult. As we say in Yiddish, avil de chaya, he's a difficult kid. And they just simply cannot keep him anymore in school. So he requested a meeting, and he asked for both the principal, the teacher, and his grandchild to be present at the meeting. And he shared the following story. The story he shared was that when he was a youngster, this was right before the war, he was either, in his teenage years, maybe just under, and the winds of war, the Germans were, with their blitzkrieg, were invading, and he told his parents that the Germans will be here in no time, and we really have to leave. We have to run. We have to escape. And his parents refused to believe him. And they rejected all his pleas and pushing to leave, You feel a certain stability where you are, where we're going to run to. It's going to be over. So he told his parents that he is not listening to them and he will just go on his own. His parents forbade him to leave. And he defied them. He said, either you come with me or I'm going on my own. And he disobeyed his parents. He got on a bicycle, and he said to the principal and the teacher that I could hear the rumblings of war. I could hear the shooting. I could hear the explosions in the background as I was, because the Germans were advancing very quickly. And so as I'm rushing and through with my bicycle, running away from the war, I could hear all that in the background. And eventually he made it out. He made it to safety. He made it into the free world, and he survived the war. And he said like this. He says, The reason why I survived the war, he says, my parents did not make it, my siblings did not make it, none of my relatives made it. I'm the only one who survived. I survived because I was a wild kid. I was a rebel, that's what I survived. He says, sometimes that's what is needed, a child that is wild. It just has to be directed correctly, not given up on, not expelled. I and my entire family would not have been here if I did not have that wild side in me. So this is my final statement, says the grandfather to everyone present in this meeting. He says, look, if you throw my grandchild out of school, I will not be giving not one more penny to this institution. And then he turns to his grandchild and he says to his grandchild, if you don't shape up, if you don't direct your wildness in a positive way, I will have nothing to do with you for the rest of your life. You're out of my life. I did not survive the war for the school not to educate and know how to direct positively children who have extra energy, who are wild. I did not survive the war so that you should use your wildness to get kicked out of school. That was the story that Rabbi Lichtenstein shared. And I thought it was a wonderful story, sharing that with you today. May we have the strength, the wisdom to follow the simple mitzvah today in this week's Torah portion, where God tells Aharon to make sure to educate his children and descendants properly in the special, great holiness of being a Kohen, being chosen by God Almighty to be a Kohen. We are all chosen by God Almighty for our special task based on the gifts and talents that we have. Let us have the ability to both rein in, and not only rein in, but direct our strengths in the right way, in a productive way, in a useful way, in a meaningful way, and so too for our wonderful children and teenagers. So everybody have a fantastic week. God willing, next Sunday we should be able to go back to the more regular, longer, in-depth, more in detail Torah class. Everybody have a fantastic rest of the week.